Hi everybody and welcome to the synthesis tutorial. Synthesis is what we call the process by which we produce sound using non-acoustic means. So using a electronic synthesizer or a computer as opposed to a guitar or a saxophone or a voice. There are two kinds of synthesis, analog synthesis and digital synthesis. Analog is when the sound is produced by electrical vibrations. It works basically the same way as a string or air column in a wind instrument or something like that, producing the sound. It just uses electricity instead. A digital synthesizer is what we use in Ableton Live, and it produces sound by crunching numbers and doing its computer processing thing and spitting out sound. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. This first part, you don't have to open up Ableton or try to follow along or anything. It's really important you just absorb all of this. Take notes if you must. So yeah, here we are. Okay, here's our instance of Ableton, and you can see we have a synth right here in this track, and a little MIDI track that's going to play over and over again. How you enter these MIDI tracks is it's the same way as entering drums, except over here you see you have an entire keyboard, and you simply enter notes where you want them. Here we go. Okay, so this is what the synth track sounds like. Sorry, the MIDI clip sounds like. Pretty simple. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and I'm going to tell you about the amplification envelope. Now, the amplification envelope is what we call the way the sound changes in volume over time. So here I have our synthesizer. It's called Operator. It's what we're going to be working with in Ableton exclusively for this section. There are other synthesizers that you can use, and I'll go through them in a second, but Operator is what we're using. So here's Operator. This is what the synthesizer looks like. This display right here, this is a picture of the amplification envelope. So listen to our MIDI clip, and you can see exactly, this is what each individual note is shaped as. See? It starts immediately when the MIDI information starts, and it has a little bit of a tail at the end, right here. Now, each part of the amplification envelope has a specific name, and I have them picked out over here. And you can see these values change, the one with green dots next to them, as I move these knobs. And it shows you basically where these controls over here are inside of the synth. This part does not exist when you just load up Operator. It's something I made for a teaching tool. You're going to be working with these, so just watch them change and you can kind of see. And I'll go through this in more detail in a second. So first thing, the attack time. The attack time is how long it takes for the sound to reach its maximum volume. So you can see right now the attack is at 0 milliseconds, and it takes 0 milliseconds for it to reach its peak volume. Now see what happens when I turn this up. You can see there's a curve or a line or a diagonal, and it takes longer for the sound to reach its maximum volume. So here, I'll play our MIDI clip, and you can see how the sound changes when I turn up the attack envelope. See, it takes longer to reach its maximum volume. That's attack time. Another parameter that we have is called decay time. That's how long it takes for the sound to reach its minimum volume before the note is released. And the best way to explain it is to show you. So here's our decay time knob. You can see it's moving this little nodule back and forth. And decay time is determined by the sustain level. Sustain is the level, is the second volume level inside the sound. Here, I'll just show you because this is the easiest way. This graphic, just watch the graphic and you'll see what I mean. See, I'm turning sustain, and you can see this is the level at which the sound is sustained, the volume. So I'll show you. You see there's that click at the beginning of the sound. That's this point right here. That's the going to the maximum and then coming back down to the sustain level, like this. Now decay time is how long it takes to reach the sustain level. So watch this. You can see it takes longer for the sound to come from its attack volume down to the sustain volume. Now, this release is how long the tail at the end of the note is. So here, turn it up, and the tail will get longer. Listen. Just like that. It's pretty intuitive if you have this graphic up here. The terminology takes some getting used to, but when in doubt, watch the graphic. Two more things that you need to be aware of. You have sustain, which I already talked about. You also have attack gain, which is how loud it gets when the note first hits. And you can see the first volume of the note is changing as I move this knob back and forth. Initial is how loud the note is when the MIDI information first starts. So theoretically, you could have the beginning way up there and the attack time way back, and the note would still start at this volume, get to this volume, and then fall down to the sustain, and when the note is released, it will cut off like this. So listen. Interesting, yeah? So the graphic is the best way to go about this. Now, as I move these around, you see these values down here changing. They are labeled exactly how I labeled them over here. They're just smaller numbers. So I can actually just get rid of all of this. Pull up operator. And now I'm changing the attack time, the decay level, the sustain level, decay, the release time, the initial gain, and the peak gain. There you go. So that's basically all I have for you guys. I didn't go through everything, obviously. There's a lot. There's a lot of things to know. You're not going to be a master at this right away. You're going to need to do research on your own. You're going to need to do other things besides what I'm telling you right now if you want to get really good at this. But I'm here as a resource always. You have the interwebs, which is a wealth of knowledge, and you really have no excuse not to use it because this is kind of where the stuff lives. And just don't be afraid to experiment with everything. This program is made for you to mess up. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your computer, and no one's going to judge you for messing this up. You need to not be afraid to mess with things and do things that aren't these tutorials and really try to figure out exactly what everything does. If you don't know what something means, type it into Google and look it up. Use me. I'm here, always. Don't be afraid. So, best of luck to all of you, and I will see you soon in person, and we can go through all this stuff together. Until then, good luck. Happy producing.